So as I said, today we have last part of the nervous system, which is about synapses. Synapses. Synapse they are saying, or synapse they are saying, there's no problem. So firstly, we must know what's synapse. Guys, you must know that if nerve impulse is passing from one neuron to another neuron, there's no direct relation between two neurons. So they are not, let's say, that connecting to each other directly. So you know that dendrites are receiving signals, then they are sending it to the cell body and then axon. And you know that axon sends it, gives it to the another neuron. In this case, it is dendrite. So as you see, between axon of one neuron and dendrite of another neuron, there's a gap. This gap is known as synapse. So synapse actually is the name of this gap between one neuron's axon, another neuron's dendrite. So it must be, this gap must be between different neurons, guys, don't forget. Now I will draw more detailed picture about it. So let's say that this is the end of axon, like this type of ending they have, let's say, and this is the beginning of the dendrite, like this one. And impulse travels from left to the right. So this is the end of axon, axon end. This is the dendrite beginning, let's say, in the beginning of the dendrite. And in this case, how this process is happening, or how, let's say, that impulses are jumping from one neuron to another neuron. Because if you remember, we know that through the neuron, impulses travel by the electrical impulses, by the changing of ions. So ion concentrations or the balance of ions are changing. As a result, they are creating impulse. So let's go, let's learn how they are happening, how they are moving in the synapses. So the reason in here is when the impulse comes to the end of the axon, in these parts, these are known as axon terminals, guys. These are known as axon terminal. Axon terminal. So inside of the axon terminals, we have vesicles. Vesicle. Vesicle, maybe you heard about it. Vesicles are small vacuoles. So we have vesicles. So these circles, what I drew, these are vesicles. And inside of these vesicles, we have special chemicals. We call them as neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter. So let's say that this dark spots, what I'm drawing now, these are these chemicals, guys, neurotransmitters. So when impulse arrives to the axon end, axon ends are releasing neurotransmitters in the vesicle. So these vesicles are moving towards this end. They are moving towards the end, and they are fusing with the membrane of the axon. And these neurotransmitters are passing to this space, guys. This space is known as synaptic cleft. Synaptic cleft. Synaptic cleft. And what we have on the next cell, on the dendrite, we have special proteins like this one. Look, 1, let's say 2, 3, and 4. These are known as, don't forget, receptors. So we have receptors on the dendrite of the next neuron. And each neurotransmitter fits to the receptor, guys. Like, you know, like enzyme and substrate. So like key and lock mechanism. So in here, neurotransmitter fits into the receptor. So they are binding to it, like this one, let's say. And when they are binding, they are again creating new impulse, which will pass from the dendrite to the next parts. So this is the reason how in the synapses we have impulse transmission. So in the synapses, we have chemicals, what we call neurotransmitters, which carry impulse from one neuron to another neuron, guys. And also there are two terms, what I forgot to give you this information. This cell, it's known as pre-synaptic cell, pre-synaptic cell. Pre means before, maybe you heard about pre, before. Pre-synaptic cell, it's coming earlier. Next one is known as post-synaptic cell. Post-synaptic cell. Post means after. An example, Azerbaijan, maybe you know, we are calling Azerbaijan or Tajikistan or Ukraine as post-Soviet countries. So after Soviet Union, you know, they created these countries. So post means after, pre means before. So generally, for every neurotransmitter, we have specific receptors. So I just drew example. So there are many receptors, and each receptor works with specific neurotransmitter. Another information, you know, we have painkillers. The drugs which are needed for the reducing of pain. So there are some painkillers which are acting, they are working with these receptors. So let's say that I'm using one painkiller such as morphine. Morphine, maybe you heard about it. It's one of the strongest painkillers. Especially we are using if people have cancer and they have strong pains because of the cancer. So let's say that morphine as a painkiller attaches to the receptor. By attaching to the receptor, guys, they are making a barrier between neurotransmitter and receptor. So neurotransmitter can't bind to the receptor. As a result, impulse is not delivered to the brain. Impulse can't go to the brain. As a result, this pain impulse is not going to the brain, and brain thinks that everything now is okay. So this is example how painkillers are working. So these are generally
Mr. Fergus,
about the synapses. Yes, I'm listening.
when we drink a painkiller, do they block receptors everywhere around our body or only in
No,
one
they
part?
are also changing. You know, there are specific receptors. Some receptors are working with the, let's say, the brain cells. Some of them are working with the eye cells or with the, they are affecting, let's say, an example, I have stomach pain. You know, there are some specific painkillers which only work for the stomach pain, stomach ache, an example. In this case, they are blocking only that pathway.
Miss Purvis.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm listening, Gorge.
Painkillers like diffusing after that, yes?
Yes, after actually neurotransmitters are also orange. So neurotransmitter, let's say, binds to the receptor, sends signal. After a certain period of time, there are some enzymes in the synapses which will destroy them. So you will make another impulse, another. Because if they will attach always to the receptor, it means that always they will carry impulse by the same way, but it's not always needed, you know. Yes. Do you have another question, guys, about the synapses? So synapses are creating one-way movement, okay? The reason is because receptors are always on the dendrite of next neuron. So this is the reason why there's one-way movement, guys. So if you don't have any question, we will go to the next part of the lesson, which will be about the receptors. So I'm going to the lesson 13.3 about receptors.
Mr. Perez,
Yes, I'm listening.
yeah, does it mean that always the movement is from left to right if it must be moved from axon to the distance?
Firstly, always, Ferit, movement occurs between one neuron's axon and another neuron's dendrite. This is one example. Another example can be, let's think about sensory neuron. Yes. So I'm just giving another example. So sensory neuron, guys. Let's look to the sensory neuron. Sensory neuron can make synapses with receptor organ, because you know the sensory neurons receive impulse from the receptor and give them to the relay neuron. Yes, CNS, as you remember. Relay neuron. So in this case, we have synapses. One synapse will be in here, another synapse will be in here. Or you know that relay neuron receives impulse from the sensory neuron, sends it to the motor neuron. So in this case, again, one synapse will be between relay and motor neuron, another synapse will be sensory and relay neuron. So if you will look to the second example, guys, if you will look to the second example, so you will say that sensory neurons axon in the synapse will join to the relay neurons dendrite, or relay neurons axon makes synapse with motor neurons dendrite. Okay?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes. This type of informations we are giving. Now we will talk, as I said, about receptors, guys. We are going to talk about receptors. So firstly, what we need to learn about receptors. Receptors, you know that they are modified, specialized cells or structures, organs also. So they are specialized cells or structures which detect different stimuli. You know, there are different types of stimuli, and for every stimuli, we have different receptors. I will give you some examples. One stimuli, what we need to learn in IGCSE, it's a light. Light will be detected by receptors in the eye, what we call as photoreceptors. Photoreceptors. So we have photoreceptors, of course, in the humans and in the mammals and in most animals, they are located in the eye. So eye is an organ which contains photoreceptors. But if we will go through the earthworm, in the earthworm, we have photoreceptors on the skin. So through the skin, they can detect the light. Actually, there are different types of photoreceptors also. Some photoreceptors only detect the brightness of the light. Some photoreceptors are detecting also the color, an example. We will have a lesson about it, we will talk. Another receptor, an example, we have special receptors, what we call as thermoreceptors. Thermoreceptors mostly we can find on the skin. So these receptors are sensitive to the heat and cold. So they can find the temperature differences, which is also important for us, because temperature affects the enzymes and you need to keep this temperature and it can destroy the cells also. Or we have special receptors which are sensitive to the pain. Of course, we call them as pain receptors. Pain receptors we can find in most organs, because you know that pain only is not related with the skin. We can feel pain by tongue. We can feel pain in our eyes or in other inner organs. We have also receptors like chemoreceptors. From the name, you can understand that they are sensitive to the chemicals. So they are sensitive to the chemicals. So in this case, stimuli will be different chemicals. And we can find this type of receptors in the nose, because actually in the air we have special chemicals, and these chemicals in the air will be detected by these receptors, which will make smell. And also on the tongue we have it, because in the food also we have chemicals which give taste. Or last type, we have mechanoreceptors. Mechanoreceptors we can find mostly in the eye structure. An example, they are sensitive to the sound. So as we know, generally receptors are concentrated in specific organs, what we call as sense organs. And these 5 sense organs are eye, ear, mechanoreceptors sound belong to ear, skin, nose, and tongue. These are our 5 major sense organs, which contain again specialized receptors, specialized cells. So this is the introductory information about the receptors, but we will talk about the eye structure. This is also, Melek, maybe logical, yes, because you know that not only perfume, you know, there are some smells which can make us different. Yes, an example, the smell of rotten meat, decomposing meat, it is one of the strongest and bad smells, let's say. And you know, there are some people who, like, when they smell this like odor, an example, they can vomit also. They are giving you this type of responses, like brain example, things like an example, or give some responses like reflexes, you know. And we have one interesting information. I'll give you one interesting information. Our cells in the nose, they are becoming tired in a very short period of time if stimuli is the same. Such as if I will use the perfume, after a certain period of time, let's say that after a minute, I will not feel the smell. But if you are going to the other place, they are saying that you have very good, like a perfume example, and you are saying that I can't feel anything. Because your receptors in the tongue, they are becoming, let's say that, tired from the same stimuli. And they are not, I'm sorry, in the nose, not on the tongue. In the nose, they are becoming tired from the same stimuli. But if you will feel another perfume, yes, you will feel it, there's no problem. But the same stimuli is not making the change in this case. As I said, this is our general introduction, but mostly we will talk about eye, about photoreceptors, about the light. Yes, Ferid, I'm listening. What's your question?
Yes, thank you. Why didn't you write in last one eye and sound? Like how is eye and sound, right?
No, ear I wrote. Yes, ear.
Like you wrote eye and mechanoreceptor sound. And
yes, mechanoreceptor, no, it's not eye, it is ear. So mechanoreceptors are sensitive to the, let's say that sound waves, an example, and we can find them in the ear, okay?
Okay.
As an organ, I forgot, because if you see, like in the bracket, I'm writing organs, so there must be ear. I wrote sound. I made mistake. Yes. No, he was talking about the same thing. And Ayan. Yes, generally, Ayan, we know that reflex is response of the body to the stimuli, yes? So some of them, mostly in IGCSE, we are learning reflex as involuntary response, but also there can be voluntary response also. So generally, reflex is a response of the body to the stimuli.
Okay, I got. And it means like reflex is the same as response, right?
Yes, actually, yes. Like reflex is like, let's say that complex, processes. Response
Okay,
is the
thank
last stage of reflex, but in the reflex, firstly, you need to receive the impulse or stimuli, then you need to send it to the brain. Brain needs to analyze the impulse, stimuli, and give the response. So all these processes together is a reflex action. But response is the last stage.
Okay, thank you so much.
So guys, now we are going to talk about eye structure, okay? The structure of the eye. The structure of the eye. This is very important for IGCSE. So in IGCSE only we will talk about eye. We don't need ear, tongue, or nose. So you need only to learn their functions. But for eye, we will have more topics. An example, we will talk about structure, about their functions, how we see, what is accommodation, which reflexes we have related with the eye. So I will go through the picture, guys. So if we look to this picture, in this picture, you can see, firstly, I will give you information about the first picture, the upper one. In here, you can see accessory organs, guys. Accessory organs or structures, let's say. So firstly, let's talk about accessory structures which are related with eye, okay? So accessory structures are not directly related with vision, but they are helping, especially they are helping with the protection. So accessory organs are eyelids, if you know that related with the protection. We have, the two upper eyelid and lower eyelid. We had eyelashes, which are again related with the protection from the dust, let's say. We have eyebrows, which generally related with the sweat movement. So if we have sweat on the forehead part, so this sweat through the eyebrows will move to the other parts, not because it's a salt substance and the salt is higher, it can damage, that cells or the vision process. And accessory structure also contain tear glands. You know that, guys, we have two tear glands, which are located on the upper left corners, okay? Upper left corners, they are located in this parts, let's say. And you know that tear glands, of course, from the name, you can understand that, produce tear. Tear, firstly, it is needed for the protection because it contains the chemicals, such as, if you remember, one of them was lysozyme, which we can find also in saliva. Lysozyme we have in the tear, which kills microbes, which can move by the air. Tear also makes them, an example, the surface moist for the easy movement. And also, last accessory organs are muscles, guys, muscles. You know that in the eye, we have different muscles. An example, iris, guys, iris, we will talk about it. It's also muscular structure. We can find muscle in the ciliary body. But these muscles, what I'm talking now, they are, look, this muscle, guys, this type of muscles, or this one. These muscles are voluntary muscles, These muscles are voluntary, which means that they are helping you to move your eyeball. For example, if I want to move my eyeball to the left, I will move it, or right. So this type of movements, they are related with these muscles. Actually, you must know that each eyeball connected with 6 muscles from the outside. Guys, do you know what will happen if there will be damage with these voluntary muscles? Which condition we will have?
We will be blind.
What, Mika, again, please?
We will be blind.
will be blind. No, it's
Oh,
not
come on.
always. Do you know cross
not
Is there
eyes?
such a
Then partially I'm right, yes?
Cross
Careful
eyes.
does that.
Cross eyes, guys. Kasoy. Cross
Ah.
eyes. Yes. So the reason
Okay.
why people have closed eyes, it is related with this muscle. So let's say that these muscles are becoming weak or there's a damage. As a result, they can't keep eyes in the right angle, let's say. This condition in biology is known as cross eyes, don't forget. So these are about the accessory organs. Now I will give you information about eye sphere. Eye sphere. So eye sphere. We need to learn layers especially. I will go through the layers, guys. Outermost layer in the book, it is conjunctiva. 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 Conjunctiva is a special layer on the cornea. In this picture, we don't have it. So if I will draw, it will be like this one, guys. On the cornea, we have special, let's say, film layer. Now that's conjunctiva. There's a disease, maybe you heard about it, conjunctivitis, conjunctivit. In this disease, it is a bacterial infection, inflammation of conjunctiva. So eyes become red, an example, they are becoming like you are producing high amount of tear. Yes, Ferhat, I'm listening again.
Yeah, thank you. Do they remove while the eye corrections is conjunction part?
If they are making surgery, okay, they are removing it. But if they are, we have an example, conjunctivitis. In this case, they will use special chemicals for the, let's say, the killing microphonate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Under conjunctiva, guys, we have the second layer, cornea, as you see from the picture, cornea. Cornea, as you see, angle is different, yes? It is moving up, an example, out, let's say. It is bulging, it bulges. Why? For the refraction, guys. So cornea is one site where refraction occurs, refraction. From the physics, you know, the change of the angle, light angle. So it's known as refraction. So it's important because, guys, you know what's the main point in here? Light only passes through the pupil. Don't forget. Light only passes through the pupil. Pupil actually is the name of hole. And you need to send the light through pupil. So this is the reason why cornea have this type of structure. Like, then under cornea, we have, as you see, look guys, anterior chamber. We have anterior chamber. It is actually, it's a space. But in this space, we have aqueous humor. So we have anterior. Guys, anterior in biology, in Latin, in medicine, means frontal one. Posterior means that hind one. So we are calling it as anterior chamber, which contains aqueous humor, guys. Aqueous means watery. Humor means the liquid. This aqueous humor must be transparent for the letting light to pass through the pupil. Guys, do you know what is the name of condition where this aqueous humor becomes milky? Who knows?
Wait, what? Can you say again?
Yes. What is the name of condition where aqueous humor becomes milky, cloudy?
When we are blind?
It also indirectly makes people blind, yes.
Is it like illness, cataract or something?
Yes, of course, it is cataract. Cataract. This is known as cataract, guys. Cataract. I will show you one picture about cataract. Just wait for the easy understanding. So this condition, guys. So this is cataract. So cataract generally related with the problem in metabolism, let's say, or the aging. So this is known as cataract. Then, under the anterior chamber, aqueous humor, we will have special layer known as iris, guys. Iris. Iris, from the picture, you can see that it is muscular structure, guys, don't forget, and it contains pigments. It contains pigments, which give color to our eyes. So you know that some people have blue eye, green eye, brown, dark colors, an example, black eye. So these pigments, as you remember, related with the melanin level. So people who have more melanin, they will have dark colors. People with the less melanin will have light colors. And you know, guys, what is the logic? What is the aim of having pigment in here?
To differ.
No, it's related with the absorption of light, because you know that, let's say that colors are absorbing, especially dark colors are absorbing the light, which will direct them to the pupil. Yeah, of course.
So can we say that people with darker eyes see better?
Generally, yes, but it is also, Sabina, is related with the environment, yes? So people who are living, let's say that in near to the equator, such as people in Africa, let's say, or some parts of the Asia, so they have dark skins. As a result, also they will have black eyes, because because all of them are related with the melanin amount. So melanin gives color to the skin, melanin gives color to the hair and to the eyes. So less melanin will make yellow hair, blue eye, green eye. More melanin makes black hair, black eye. So generally we can find this combination. The people which have a black eye or dark eyes, they have also black hair. But there can be some examples that people have black hair but blue eyes. Generally, they are related with the marriages. Let's say that people with from Europe married with people from the, for example, Azerbaijan, and they have this type of combinations. Generally, let's say that their ancestors had this type of combinations. So we have iris, guys.
Okay,
Yes, noted. So iris contains pigments, and I said the reason in here. And also in the iris, we have two muscles, guys. We have two muscles in the iris. I will write these muscles. These muscles are known as circular muscles, and radial muscles. So we have two types of the muscles. Don't forget, circular muscles and radial muscles. Now I'm going to talk about one thing in here. Then we will continue with this order, guys. So skip a place, an example, because we will write another parts. Now we will write, I will give you information about the iris reflex. So let's say that we have eye in here with dark part. So this one, and at the center we have pupil, guys. Pupil, I'm repeating again, it's a hole. Yes, it looks like black, but actually it's a hole. There's no pigment. Pupil is just the space under the pupil. We will have a part known as lens. So now I will draw two muscles with what we have. So the muscles which are, as you see, run, let's say that perpendicular, how to say, or from the pupil, an example. So this type of muscles are known as radial muscles, guys. Radial muscles. Guys, you know, in biology, when muscles contract, they are becoming shorter. So they are shortening by contraction. So what do you think? What will happen when radial muscles will contract?
Pupil
We will become blind.
Thank you.
Iris will be smaller.
Iris will be smaller and pupil will be
Close.
Bigger.
bigger. Pupil will be bigger.
Is it good or bad?
It is good. if you are Mika, if you are in a dark condition, of course it's good.
Okay.
So generally, guys, this iris reflex, also known as pupil reflex. So this is known as iris or pupil reflex, guys. So in iris or pupil reflex, this reflex generally related with the light amount, okay? It is related with the amount of light. So this is happening when you are in a dark condition or when you are in a dim light. When you are in a dim light. Because if I'm in the dark, if I'm in the dim light, I need to catch more light as possible for the vision. For catching more light, I need to have bigger pupil, guys. My pupil will become bigger. So pupil gets bigger, don't forget, when radial muscles contract. Now we will talk about the opposite action.